for another episode of Gray Roots. Thank you all for who have been on this journey with us so far. Just to get some context into this space, most of the time, if not every time we recorded one of these podcasts, we're showing up going, no, what are we talking about today? What is it? So if you have an idea of it, something you want to talk about, just do it. There is no perfect way to do this. Just show up. So that's what we do most of the time, and it's been really fun. I love it. So the last couple episodes we've been talking, or really before that, we've been talking about issues within families and things that can cause stress, a wedding with a mother and having a baby and political conversations and all of that. So today I feel like the next couple, we're going to dive into maybe why there's some issues that happen and some disagreements and some headbutting going on in those conversations. And I think it's going to be really helpful and bring some light and shed some light. I know it has for me in my own life and my own family. So back probably, 11 or 12 years ago, I was sitting in church in the back row with my very dear friend Carla, and she has been studying personalities for probably over 20, 25 years. And we're like two high school girls sitting in the back row because I just met this guy and his name was Andy, and she's helping me understand. And I'm like, showing her these texts that I'm getting from him. And I'm like, he's just not stepping into the space. And so after just, we're supposed to be paying attention to church. And she finally tells me, she says, he is an S personality. And of those of you who know the DISC, DISC, and we'll talk about that further. And he moves at a glacial pace. And for me, I am not an S. I am a D. I'm like, all right, what are we doing? Where are we going? Blah, blah, blah. So that begins. I appreciated her saying that at the time because it helped me understand that in the moment, even though I wasn't going to do anything about it. Temperaments and personalities within mother-in-law, daughter-in-law relationships. We're going to be talking about marriage, your partners as well, and kids, grandkids, and siblings, because it matters, you guys. How have you seen this play out in your life? Just maybe recently, do you have an example of just a personality difference between, or a conversation over Christmas, or something that has happened recently that you can think of that just realize you understanding their personality differences helped in the situation? Anything come to mind, Kath?
I think it happens a lot, honestly. I think, the more I think the older you get, the more you're able to recognize personalities. I think some of that's wisdom. I remember when I was younger and I would meet someone with an introverted personality. I didn't understand the differences. And so I assumed, you being one of those people, I assumed they weren't interested in friendship or they weren't interested in the conversation. And so much of that was their personality. It had nothing to do with the friendship or the conversation. It was how they were wired and how they connected. And so when I was younger, I definitely made judgments based on that. Now that I'm older and have been around that personality a lot, I recognize it. I can't think of a specific situation like over Christmas that happened, but it happens often.
Fast forward just a little bit. So Carla, she went ahead and did the personality profile on me, the DISC one. There's that. There's the Enneagrams. There's Kathleen Edelman, a lot of you have heard of. I said this, you heard that, which is the colors. And we'll kind of reference that more. It's easier than to do the phlegmatic, choleric. So there's the red, which is the D, the disc, in the disc. The reds are the more dominant. We're decision makers. We know what we want. Kathleen Adams says a lot that you guys are right. Like, we're right a lot of the time. We're right on a lot of things. We're good problem solvers. So those are our strengths. We can handle situations like, give me a problem, let's fix it. What are we going to do about it? We don't sit in it. So those are the D's, those are the reds, those are the choleric. Kathy, you said you had red in you. Alicia, I don't see it. Do you have red in you too? I see yellow. A lot.
I don't see red in me. Oh, girl, I have so much red. Yeah, what I tell people is when I kind of explain it, I said, we're doing things my way. We're going to have a hell of a lot of fun doing it.
So we kind of understand what we're talking about. So we have the D's, the choleric, and the reds. We have the I's, which are the yellows, and the sanguines. Party time, life of the party, walk into a room, they're there. Really good talkers. They tell stories, really good storytellers, and just really fun to be around. Where's the fun? You'll find the yellows there. The I's, and they are the sanguines, yes. And then we have this side is the
Penguin.
green in the color. They're the greens. That's the S's, and those, the phlegmatics, if you wanted to say that. Those are they take a little bit of time to make decisions. They kind of just sit back. However, they're also good problem solvers. You can usually go to them in a situation where you need something done or just need some advice. They're very good at that. And they are, like I said, slower to make decisions, slower movers. They move at a glacial pace when making decisions, but when they do make a decision, it's usually a great one and the best one. However, they need that time and space to think and research. Andy is a green. He's a phlegmatic. And then you have the C's, the melancholy, the blues, not task oriented. They are task oriented, but they're very detailed, very in their head, very detailed. I don't know. Do you guys have any blues in your life? Do you guys know of any blues? Okay. Okay.
I have so many blues.
They're
Like
like,
of
leave me alone.
yellow. So I'm always trying to make them have fun. And
Yes, they're like, leave me
it
alone, give
doesn't,
me a good book or
because I
something
become
to
very
work on
annoying.
and be by myself. Yeah, and so the reds and the blues are more task oriented. I am so task oriented. Give me a list and I'm going to do it. And then it says the yellows and the greens are more relational. Sit with me, talk with me. Sometimes that's hard for me as a red. I'm like, come on, we got to get some stuff done. Then I can sit and talk with you. Where they're like, let's work on the relationship and then the task. So you can see all these differences and different personalities of how in a family situation, like, man, that alone can cause issues. If you have a red mother-in-law and you have a green daughter-in-law, holy cow, like that right there is going to cause issues. And so the communication styles are different. I'm very direct. Girls, we're all reds. We are very direct. Speak to me in a direct way, right? Like talk to me. And that's the communication that I can understand. That's the language that as a red, I understand. How do we, let's just say, as mother-in-laws in this situation right now, how can we be more as reds aware and communicate in a different way with our daughter-in-laws?
So I have a daughter-in-law that is a green, very non-confrontational, very, very green. And it's hard for me because I feel like I have to kind of slow it down. But for me, it's kind of taking a minute to realize I need to give her space to process things. And also realizing that, as reds, red is one of the stronger, if not the strongest temperament type, right? So it's very easy for me to just steamroll over people and probably not think another thing about it until there's a problem later. And I'm like, why is there a problem? I'm just getting everything done. So just kind of being aware of my desire to kind of push forward and pull back a little bit. Think about what is it that she wants? What is it that she's trying to communicate to me? Asking more questions than giving directives, which is, what my kids found me to be very good at. I'm a great delegator.
Yeah, that's a good example. One of the things Kathleen Edamine said that I appreciated was she said, we have given as moms and dads, are given that personality for a reason or that temperament for a reason. Like for me as a red, there is no way if I was a green, could I have raised my kids by myself as a single mom? There is no way. I had to be red. I had to say, all right, here's what we're doing. This is going here. Now, unfortunately for my kids, some of them are green. Some of them are blue. And so for them, that was just like you're talking about, being a steamrolling. However, I don't think we would have survived had I not been a red. Instead of going, oh, I'm so bossy, I need to just chill out. Like it was there for a reason. And so I accept that. And I like that God knew that I needed to do that. And so what you just said was, what if you didn't know she was a green? What if you didn't know that? I mean, it could come across in such a different way in your communication style, and you could just see just issues building up over time of you being frustrated at her being frustrated at you. So I think one thing we'll do, Kath, if you could do this, is put the link maybe to the disc, to the, I said this, you heard that in the show notes. And so if people want to take these tests for themselves, Yeah, so you can go ahead and do this. If you're the mother-in-law
The
and
show
you just
notes.
want to
Yep.
learn more about your kids, or just send it to the family like I did yesterday. I just said, hey, shot this out. Hey, guys, like, if you have time, take 20 minutes and go ahead and do this, just so that we can all be aware of where everybody's at. Because it has been so helpful for me. Kath, what about you?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I was just thinking, gosh, I'd love to do that with mine. Not even that I don't think I know what everyone is, but just so that it's all out in the open. There is something about saying, hey, you know what? Wow, I didn't realize mom was so yellow or whoever. I think it's nice it starts that conversation. Because again, I think at the end of the day, it's what you do with the information that really matters. I mean, if you have this information, we don't use it, then it's a waste. But if we could all say, hey, let's take the test. And it's just something maybe that comes up in conversation when you're together. Wow, I didn't realize you were so green. Gosh, that's so interesting. Is that why you do things this way? But
Exactly.
hopefully that
Yeah,
will
and
open the
green.
door
Like when
for
I first
conversation.
found out that I was a
So,
red,
yeah, I love that idea.
I grew up three other older siblings, just really didn't have a voice and just thinking I was this timid person, like, oh, I'm just gonna do this. And when she told me I was a red, I'm like, what? Like, wow. Like, I kind of almost stepped into that power of like, okay, that's who I am. Not what my lifestyle told me, my life situation said that I was. And so it was really freeing to just kind of step into my own skin. And I feel like even for greens or whatever the turnout is,
Yeah.
it brings freedom. And it's so freeing just to go, okay, this is why I react like this. This is like you said, Alicia, this is why I communicate like this. But then also to be aware of other people's temperaments, because we can be strong as Reds. We can come across this. Because, Alicia, if you told me something, hey, girl, like, stop doing that. It bothers me. I'd be like, yeah, okay. Yeah, no problem. Whereas different personalities are kind of take it in, crush. Yeah.
It would crush me.
Yes.
I'd be thinking about it. I'd be like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe that. How many times have I done that? And how can I change your mind? I have to be loved. I have to be liked. It really, I mean, now that I'm older, it doesn't bother me as much. But when I was younger, to find out that someone didn't like me, and let me tell you, there have been some people. Look, the list is not long, but they are passionate. The ones that aren't fans, they're passionate about not being fans of mine. And it would crush me. I would think about it. I kid you not, you guys. I would spend lots of time thinking about how to win the people over, or what I had done. They didn't like me. Now I'm like, I'm so sad for you. You get older.
Well, and Carrie, that reminds me of, like, we have this ongoing kind of conversation of, we would get together and talk and you're like, oh my gosh, and this is going on. And like I said, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, did you say that? Like, did you say that? I'm like, yes, I said that. And like, finally you just stopped asking. You're like, you really said that, didn't you? I'm like, yeah. Like, it never even crossed my mind that I wouldn't say it. But that's kind of some of that strong personality that comes through, that maybe I shouldn't say everything, or maybe I should package it in a way that lands better, communicates better to the person that I'm trying to communicate with. Yes. Would probably be a wiser
Hey, I
choice.
think that's key, Alicia, right there. I think if we can, before we speak, think about how that person receives information, how they receive love, and then make our communication style fit that if we can. Again, that I don't think we always can do that, but if you can, that's amazing.
Yeah, and Kathleen Edelman does a really good job at turning it around and saying, okay, now that you know your temperament, the goal is that it's to know other people's and know your style and to cater to them so that you can. And girl, I am not good at that. I am learning. My motto used to be, I'm just going to say what I'm saying. And however you take it is your problem. And that is not the way it needs to be. And so I'm learning to be more gentle. How many greens do I have? A couple are green, a couple blues. Seps are, a couple that are in the house are greens and blues. Like, I don't have a Carly. Carly's the only other red in my. Tanner has a little bit of red. Tanner's got a little bit of red. Caitlin, totally yellow, all the way yellow. Caitlin is all yellow. What's going on? And see, for her, who Madeline is a blue, Caitlin's like, why don't you ask about me, or why don't you have friends, or why don't you do this? Well, Madeline's like, can you just be quiet? Can you just like, so I sent it to them so that they can understand each other's personalities as sisters. So I think when I ask you that, Alicia, it's like, wait, what? You're another red? Like we can talk like that? Because I am around so many people who are not my personality. Sometimes I feel like there's a problem with me that I communicate the way I do. So, and that's not true. We all have strengths. Red has strengths. Red has weaknesses. Yellows have strengths. Yellows talk too much sometimes. They need to know when to listen. Greens have strengths. They also need to know when to take action. It's time to take action. And blues need to kind of be a little more social a little bit. Yes, your strengths, detail oriented. We need you in this world, but also we need to know that you care, so there's all strengths and weaknesses. And Andy and I talked about it, being a red and a green, my strengths, he can benefit from, and his strengths I can benefit from. But when we're operating in our weaknesses, it's not good. And that goes for any of our personalities. And so I feel like whether we're talking about politics or religion or mother-in-law relationships, like this is huge. If we can understand this about each other and approach each other in a more graceful way, right? We've been saying that this season and last season, to approach each other with grace. So what about if you guys want to share a little bit like your spouse relationship, what is that dynamic?
So Jeff, I am red yellow. And I think, and it's easy for me to understand when I think about what the desires are, right? Like, not that I don't like things organized and detailed, but like, what is my end desire? So like red is control and yellow is fun, right? In the best possible world, I'm in control of everything and I'm having fun. And Jeff's temperament is green yellow. So he's phlegmatic. I mean, just steady all the time, sometimes a little bit slower to move on stuff, and then yellow as well. So, when we're having fun, we're having a good time. But again, I can tend to kind of like just take over and steamroll, and it took me a while to kind of figure that out. And I know I've told you guys the story about how we were in a fight one time, and I don't even remember what it was about. We were just, we were living in Germany. We'd been married under 3 years, and whatever the fight was, I was all about getting it out and talking about it. And I was following him around the house, trying to argue with him and talk about this issue that we had to resolve. And I followed him right out the door, and he got into his car, and I knocked on the window. I'm like, "Where are you going?" "I'm done." He said, I'm done. Huh. Done with me trying to like shove all this down his throat. And so that was, I didn't know about temperaments back then, but that was kind of a prime example of him needing that space, needing to process before he could communicate with me, and me wanting to verbalize it and get it out and processing outside. Right. I mean, I talk a lot. That's also kind of a thing of I process
What about you and
outside, and he processes inside.
Jeff did not take the test. He's never done the yellow and red color, but I would bet we are very similar because like on the other Enneagram, I mean, the Enneagram were the same too, but the Myers-Briggs were the same.
Wow.
Sorry. But we're exactly the same on Myers-Briggs, ESFJ. So my guess is we're going to be the same on anything. Yeah, we are. We're exactly, it's weird. And it's different because my ex-husband and I are probably opposite. In fact, we were. He was an NSP, I think. So we were exact opposite. And so to go being married from somebody who's your exact opposite to somebody who's so similar, different challenges. And definitely not as many being so similar. I mean, but doesn't mean that it's exactly like when Jeff and I first met. He was not a talker. He was more of a stuffer of emotion. And because I will talk it to death, I had to say, "Oh no, we talked this out. Oh no, we talked this out." But he was so receptive. I think because his temperament was the same, I think it was easy for him to just move into that. And so I don't know, it's real easy. He's easy to be married to. We're not exactly the same, thank goodness. I mean, he's definitely the calm to my chaos. I mean, so we are a little bit different, and he is much more of a go-getter. I mean, I'm happy to like, let's just watch Netflix all day. And he'd be like, I can do that for like one show and I got to go do something. I mean, so we're a little bit different. And so it just works. It is beautiful, and I'm super grateful for it.
Yeah, that's amazing. So for Andy and I, being a red, like in the situation that I was in, it even amped that up even hotter. I was a hotter red because I had to be. And so meeting Andy, being a green, like this has been a thing where as a single mom of 5 kids, I'm running this household. I got to keep the house running, the water pipes going, the laundry going. Like, you have to be on top of things, and I had to make decisions quickly every single day. You cannot let anything sit still because it will be overwhelming. And so for him being a green was like,
Yeah.
yeah, like not even thinking about certain things. I'm like, if we don't do this, then the weeds are going to come in the fall. And then if we don't change the filter on like all these things that I had to keep up with. So I had to learn to just kind of back off and let him operate in his strengths because he has them as a green, just because he's not a red and doesn't make decisions like I do. But this has been something we've had to grow into. It's been 10 years and it's been a thing. Weekends, I remember weekends were rough because I'm like, you get up in the morning, you get outside, you work while it's cold, warm or not as cold, not as hot. And then you come in and then you can relax and watch football. Where he will have breakfast with his kids. We'll talk for hours about things going on. And I'm like, we gotta go. Like, there's things to do. There's things to do. So that I think this has been probably one of the highest trials for us. And things to work through is just our personality differences in handling life.
My sister and I are very different personalities and temperaments. I don't even know what she is. She's not me. And I thought, you know what? When she dies, she's going to be remembered for so many great business decisions she made. That girl can start a business. She's such a go-getter. Really just, she can take a problem and solve it. She's so creative. And I thought, that's what she's going to be remembered for. And I thought, ooh, what am I going to be remembered for? Well, I don't know. Relationships. I mean, I'm going to be, I think, remembered for people. And so is one more valuable than the other? I don't know that it is, but it's just different. It's just different. And it's like, is it more valuable that Andy wants to sit and spend time with his kids?
Yeah,
I don't
right.
know. Or is it more valuable that you got stuff done so
Yeah,
that you
well,
have a
yeah,
house that's safe for everybody to live
exactly.
in? I don't know that one's better than the other, but they're just different. And I think it's recognizing that, okay, the differences are, we want to label everything. We want to label food as good and bad. We want to label people as good and bad. We want to label relationships as good and bad. And if we can just say, hey, you know what, let's just try to remove the emotion from all of it and be just okay with being different.
It's okay. I mean, don't let the house burn down and we need a washer to work. But it's okay to just sit and have conversations. I've actually gone back to my own kids and said, hey, I apologize that I didn't sit with you more and listen more, especially to the greens and the blue, just being there with you. I was so focused on the tasks and cleaning up and making sure and then moving on to the next thing and all of that. So I apologize to them and just said sorry for that. And so now I'm more aware. Okay, it's okay. It's not easy because that is not my there are things that need to be done.
Well, again, I go back to when you and Alicia came to the lake for the first time. And I had told Jeff, I'm like, these girls are go-getters. Now, listen, we will not be sitting the whole weekend. We are going to be going, we're going to be walking, and then they're going to probably want to go in the gym and work out. And then we're probably going to be kayaking, and then we're probably going to be, and we did none of that. We sat for 3 days, and it was so bizarre because I was like, wait, what has happened here to my two friends that never sit? I think your bodies are finally like, okay, girls, it's okay to sit. But it was lovely.
Kathy was talking about she and Jeff were similar. Which was opposite from her previous husband. And I just think like sometimes being the same you can bump up into that, right? I think, and especially like when you have a stronger personality when you're reds, because I know like, for example, like I have a daughter-in-law who is red. And like she wants control and I want control, right? That's what our innate desire is with that way that we're wired. And those don't always line up. So I know like with the mother-in-law, daughter-in-law relationship, at least it's a little bit trickier to navigate because I definitely don't want to steamroll her over,
that, okay, this is the way she's wired. And so that is huge, valuable information for the relationship.
And I think for me, when I learned that it's not just like, you're just like this, but you are wired that way. Like it doesn't change, like sometimes with Enneagram, it can change. And And I understand, like, if you're in a work environment, it can be a little different. Like Jeff in a work environment, like he has learned how to have a lot of red traits to be successful with things, work environment, with the military, and now with the businesses. But, we're wired that way. Like that is, and like you said, just kind of step into that. Once you realize where you are and step into it, then you can go and, be that person for others.
Yeah, I like that. And Kath, also I want to go back to, you talked about labels of how, okay, take the test, figure out what your kids are, your spouse is, your kid, your partner is, but not to use that as against them or as a weapon or even as a label. It can change. I know Reds who aren't competitive, and that does not compute to me, but that's true. Reds who aren't competitive. And then you were talking about control. Like some Reds don't want to be in control. I just want there to be order and control and consistency. And I don't want to be the boss. I just want there to be some sort of order. And so I think we can put those labels on that are misrepresented sometimes with people. Same with all the different personality types. So to use it as a tool for each other and to understand people better and not as a weapon against. So circling back, Andy and I knew in the beginning, she told me he's this way. Because we learned these colors early on, I'm very thankful, because now we can say, okay, that's you being a green and that's me being a red. You're just not being lazy or uncaring. You're just take a little longer to do research and to figure things out. Allowing him to be in that space, sometimes working on it, and then him allowing me and understanding my personality as well has been a really valuable resource for us. I don't think we would have made it this far had we not known those things about each other. So if you're listening to this, there's plenty out there. If you haven't done one already, highly recommend it for yourself, for your partner, for your kids, your daughters-in-laws, sons-in-laws, just to know who they are. Like you said, Alicia, they're wiring. They're may just not being a bitch about it. It just may be their wiring about certain things. So definitely encourage that, which then can lead to better communication, which is why we're here. Yeah, I think just reiterating, if you haven't already taken the personality test yourself, there's something freeing about that, very freeing and validating about who you are and why you handle things in a certain way. I think start there. And then if you feel like it's open to share it with other people, your family, then do that as well, as a way to bring the family, like you said, more together and to understand each other better. So I think that would be a great deposit for this week.
Yeah,
There's
excellent.
lots to choose from.
I'll put the link in the show notes. Absolutely. And just to offer, I was going to say, there's lots of different personalities. There's not like we're here pushing one. We're just saying something that kind of just sums it up so that you can know what you're working with and just kind of know how they're wired. And that also removes the emotion from it. So good job, Carrie. Thanks. That's a powerful one. We will see you next week.
Bye.